Hello and welcome to Ask Team Rustic. I'm Cassie and I'm a craftswoman here at Rustic and Main.
And I'm Casey and I answer your emails.
Today we are covering one of our most asked about topics, and that is, what kind of materials can I send in for my custom ring?
First up is wood. So the dimensions that we would need is a minimum of 1 inch by 1 inch by 8 inches in length. And we would need the grain to be running lengthwise. An example of this one is the grain running lengthwise beautifully. Until you get to that point, there's a little knot there. It's pretty likely it's going to break and get brittle at that point, but we have plenty to work with over here. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Another piece right here potentially could work. We might be able to shave through that. This part right here, there's a little hole there. It might break. When you get further down the wood, it might be better. We would just have to test it to be sure. This example, it's probably not going to be big enough. It's a little bit narrow for us, and can't really tell which way the grain is running until we test it. So you can always send a picture if you're not really sure, but the best way to be sure is for us to just test it in the shop and see.
Awesome. Next up, we have our coffee.
So another way you can do this is to send in the entire bag, and everybody would be happy to help drink it.
I know I make rings much faster when folks let us keep the coffee.
The other options you have are to send in the whole bean or to send in coffee grounds. Whole bean is definitely better. It gives us a little bit more to work with to get proper texture and just a little bit easier to work with. But we can work with the coffee grounds as well. So if you're going to send the coffee grounds, a couple tablespoons, maybe a quarter cup would be good. And for the whole beans, a generous handful or a quarter cup would be good as well.
Absolutely. Next up we have the flowers, and these have become popular due to the design of our ladies' rings. In this one I have here on my hand, we have crushed rose petals and also some rose gold in there with gold flakes. So folks have been sending us their roses.
So this one is a whole rose, obviously, with dried is important. Don't send us a fresh flower. It's not going to work well on your ring. So don't send us the whole plant either. It's going to be a little bit difficult. And these ones would be what it's going to end up looking like for something like that is just crushed rose petals through this one. It gets a little texture there.
And that is how we break down the rose petals to inlay them in the ring.
And then this one would be for our lavender ring. And this one is already crushed as well. So you can send in, if you have it like this, or you can send in whole flowers or petals as long as they're dried.
Yep, and I'd like to add the brighter the better. Something like this just shows up so beautifully in the ring.
And this one is another example of the brighter the better. Just a lot of color variation here of different flowers that a customer sent in for us to use in their ring. So.
Yeah. You also can add in gold flakes in gold, silver, and also pyrite. Arr.
Another option that we can use in a ring is fabric. So somebody can send in either a whole shirt or a uniform to commemorate someone, or if you just had a piece of fabric that's meaningful to you, the minimum that we'd be able to use is about 2 inches by 4 inches in length. And another example, you can just send in part of a shirt, part of just a piece of fabric or pillowcase, whatever you have, and we'll test that out and see if it'll work in your ring.
But wouldn't you say, Casey, most common fabrics are military uniform, polyester, ribbon sometimes works, right?
Yep, sometimes the ribbon will work.
One thing that does not work well, though, is wedding dresses. And the reason for this is that the fabric is very delicate and also tends to yellow over time. So we ask that you not send that in, as it is very difficult to work with. Also, to bring up a slightly awkward topic, people often ask us to commemorate their loved ones by putting ashes in one of our rings. And although we would love to help you with this very special thing, we do not have the licensing required to work with human, pet, or other biological remains. So we ask that you don't send those in for us, and think about perhaps commemorating them through a special piece of fabric that they once owned, or some wood from their property or something like that.
Another option that we can use is gold. So we can things like gold wire. You can hold that one. Mm-hmm. But we ask that you don't send us in gold jewelry. We can't use it in this form. We don't have the tooling currently to work with this. We would need it in wire form. Typically 20 to 26 gauge wire is what we'd need. And if you don't already have it in wire form, then you can check out a website, Facet Foundry Jewelry. Brent Mesner has a business, and he will be happy to answer any of your questions if you reach out via the website and check out the email or phone number and ask them to help you out. to take your heirloom jewelry and turn it into gold wire so that we can use it in your ring.
Yeah, so we'll include a link to Brent Mesner below. And also a thing to note, when working with him or having your ring melted down into a wire, it's important that the metal is annealed. And I didn't know what that word means either, but it's just a process of softening the metal so that it's easier for us to bend and put in the ring for you.
Yep. If you have any other questions about any materials that we've shown here today or any materials that you wanted to use and you have not seen, feel free to reach us at team@rusticandmain.com and we'd be happy to answer your questions.
Yes, and although we do love a challenge here at Rustic and Main, each ring we design is a unique piece of art and takes a variety of skills. So although we may not be able to create every design, we promise you that we will try our absolute best.
And stay tuned for more videos from us for Ask Team Rustic, and we'll see you later.
Yes, thanks so much for tuning in.